very well acquainted." The man eyed my husband for a minute, half sulking, half pleased at the implied compliment of his skill, and, walking off to the engine, discussed the management of it with considerable fluency, and from that time treated us with perfect respect. He was evidently struck with my husband's reply to his question, put in a most discourteous tone. "Pray what makes a gentleman? I'll thank you to answer me that." "Good manners and good education," was the reply. "A rich man, or a high born man, if he is rude, ill mannered, and ignorant, is no more a gentleman than yourself." This put the matter on a different footing, and the engineer had the good sense to perceive that rude familiarity did not constitute a gentleman. But it is now time I should give you some account of Peterborough, which, in point of situation, is superior to any place I have yet seen in the Upper Province. It occupies a central point between the townships of Monaghan, Smith, Cavan, Otonabee, and Douro, and may with propriety be considered as the capital of the Newcastle district. It is situated on a fine elevated plain, just above the small lake, where the river is divided by two low wooded islets. The original or government part of the town is laid out in half-acre lots. The streets, which are now fast filling up, are nearly at right angles with the river, and extend towards the plains to the north east. These plains form a beautiful natural park, finely diversified with hill and dale, covered with a lovely green sward, enamelled with a variety of the most exquisite flowers, and planted as if by nature's own hand with groups of feathery pines, oaks, balsam, poplar, and silver birch. The views from these plains are delightful. Whichever way you turn your eyes, they are gratified by a diversity of hill and dale, wood and water, with the town spreading over a considerable tract of ground. The plains descend with a steep declivity towards the river, which rushes with considerable impetuosity between its banks. Fancy a long narrow valley, and separating the east and west portions of the town into two distinct villages. The Otonabee bank rises to a loftier elevation than the Monaghan side, and commands an extensive view over the intervening valley, the opposite town, and the boundary forests and hills behind it. This is called Peterborough East, and is in the hands of two or three individuals of large capital, from whom the town lots are purchased. Peterborough, thus divided, covers a great extent of ground, more than sufficient for the formation of a large city. The number of inhabitants are now reckoned at 700 and upwards, and if it continues to increase as rapidly in the next few years as it has done lately, it will soon be a very populous town. Note. Since this account of Peterborough was written, the town has increased at least a third in buildings and population. End note. There is great water power, both as regards the river and the fine broad creek which winds its way through the town and falls into the small lake below. There are several saw and grist mills, a distillery, fulling mill, two principal inns, besides smaller ones, a number of good stores, a government schoolhouse, which also serves for a church, till one more suitable should be built. The plains are sold off in park lots, and some pretty little dwellings are being built; but I much fear the natural beauties of this lovely spot will be soon spoiled. I am never weary with strolling about, climbing the hills in every direction, to catch some new prospect, or gather some new flowers, which, though getting late in the summer, are still abundant. Among the plants with whose names I am acquainted are a variety of shrubby asters of every tint of blue, purple, and pearly white; a lilac monarda, most beautifully aromatic even to the dry stalks and seed vessels; the white nephellium, or everlasting flower; roses of several kinds, a few late buds of which I found in a valley near the church. I also noticed among the shrubs a very pretty little plant, resembling our box. It trails along the ground, sending up branches and shoots; the leaves turn of a deep copper red, yet in spite of this contradiction it is an evergreen. I also noticed some beautiful lichens with coral caps surmounting the grey hollow footstalks, which grow in irregular tufts among the dry mosses, or more frequently I found them covering the roots of the trees or half decayed timbers. Among a variety of fungi I gathered a hollow cup of the most splendid scarlet within, and a pale fawn colour without. Another very beautiful fungi consisted of small branches like clusters of white coral, but of so delicate a texture that the slightest touch caused them to break. The ground in many places was covered with a thick carpet of strawberries of many varieties, which afford a constant dessert during the season to those who choose to pick them, a privilege of which I am sure I should gladly avail myself were I near them in the summer. Besides the plants I have myself observed in bloom, I am told the spring and summer produce many others: the orange lily, the phlox, or purple lichnidea, the moccasin flower, or lady's slipper, lilies of the valley in abundance, and, towards the banks of the creek and the Otonabee, the splendid cardinal flower, Lobelia cardinalis, waves its scarlet spikes of blossoms. I am half inclined to be angry when I admire the beauty of the Canadian flowers, to be constantly reminded that they are scentless, and therefore scarcely worthy of attention; as if the eye could not be charmed by beauty of form and harmony of colours, independent of the sense of smelling being gratified. To redeem this country from the censure cast on it by a very clever gentleman I once met in London, who said, "the flowers were without perfume, and the birds without song," I have already discovered several highly aromatic plants and flowers. The milkweed must not be omitted among these, a beautiful shrubby plant with purple flowers, which are alike remarkable for beauty of colour and richness of scent. I shall very soon begin to collect a hortus siccus for Eliza, with a description of the plants, growth, and qualities. Any striking particulars respecting them I shall make notes of, and tell her she may depend on my sending my specimens with seeds of such as I can collect at some fitting opportunity. I consider this country opens a wide and fruitful field to the inquiries of the botanist. I now deeply regret I did not benefit by the frequent offers Eliza made me of prosecuting a study which I once thought dry, but now regard as highly interesting, and the fertile source of mental enjoyment, especially to those who, living in the bush, must necessarily be shut out from the pleasures of a large circle of friends, and the varieties that a town or village offer. On Sunday I went to church, the first opportunity I had had of attending public worship since I was in the Highlands of Scotland, and surely I had reason to bow my knees in thankfulness to that merciful God who had brought us through the perils of the great deep and the horrors of the pestilence. Never did our beautiful liturgy seem so touching and impressive as it did that day, offered up in our lowly log built church in the wilderness. This simple edifice is situated at the foot of a gentle slope on the plains, surrounded by groups of oak and feathery pines, which, though inferior in point of size to the huge pines and oaks of the forest, are far more agreeable to the eye, branching out in a variety of fantastic forms. The turf here is of an emerald greenness; in short, it is a sweet spot, retired from the noise and bustle of the town, a fitting place in which to worship God in spirit and in truth. There are many beautiful walks towards the Smith Town hills, and along the banks that overlook the river. The summit of this ridge is sterile, and is thickly set with loose blocks of red and grey granite, interspersed with large masses of limestone scattered in every direction. They are mostly smooth and rounded, as if by the action of water, as they are detached